On June 10th, 1989, the debut episode of Tales from the Crypt, called The Man Who Was Death, premiered on HBO. It was still quite early in the cable company's venture into creating original content, but was arguably one of their earliest successes. The show, inspired by the controversial EC comic books, led to a children's cartoon, Halloween decorations, albums, movies, and countless other products. It also left an eternal imprint on the kids who watched it, and the kids who were scared to watch it, and the kids who became obsessed with the decaying host. Here at Geekscape, we gathered the hosts of all of your favorite horror podcasts and presented the argument of what was the best episodes of Tales from the Crypt. And this was the final list. Huge shout outs to the hosts of Fright School, Jersey Ghouls, Monster Rally Podcast, and my podcast, Horror Movie Night, for their assistance. My name is Matt Kelly of Geekscape TV, and this is Geekscape's official top 10 episodes of Tales from the Crypt. Also, obviously, spoilers ahead for some 30 to 35-year-old episodes of Tales from the Crypt. Number 10, People Who Live in Brass Hearses, Season 5, Episode 5. On paper, this should be a terrible episode. Bill Paxton stars as a criminal with an addiction to butter who, with the help of his mentally challenged brother, tries to get revenge on the friendly ice cream truck driver who caused him to go to prison for 2 years. However, it's all about the final shot that left this one in everyone's collective memories. The ice cream man is beloved for using a puppet to entertain the kids and to tell them all about the different flavors, and the kids are frequently amazed by how his lips never seem to move when he's playing with the puppet. When Billy and his brothers shoot the ice cream man in the face and kill him, the truth of his ability to throw his voice is finally revealed. The ice cream man is actually a conjoined twin. The living brother kills Billy, and the episode ends with him sitting in the ice cream truck with his deceased brother's corpse dangling off of his back.
You hear that, Earl? The kid says we suck.
Number 9, Cutting Cards, Season 2, Episode 3. One of the best elements of Tales from the Crypt was how quickly they could create stories that were both parts cautionary as well as absurd. Cutting Cards is the simplest setup. Two rival gamblers with extreme hatred towards each other are upping the ante on bets and getting increasingly more dangerous. It comes to a head when they play a game of poker where when you lose a hand, you also lose part of your hand. The episode concludes with a chilling ending, with both men in the hospital playing checkers, now neither with any arms or legs. The ending is so iconic that they actually recreated it for a segment in the Tales from the Crypt Bordello of Blood movie. Number 8, Top Billing, Season 3, Episode 5. Sometimes the success of an episode falls firmly on the casting. Putting John Lovitz in the role of a jaded, struggling actor and John Ashton as an eccentric director elevates this story in so many amazing ways. In an effort to prove to his rival Winston that there are some roles that you can't get simply by being attractive, both audition for a small local theater performance of Hamlet. However, when the attractive Winston gets cast over him, he loses his mind and kills Winston just to get the part. It's only then that he realizes that he wasn't cast as Hamlet, but Uric, the skull. Turns out that the theater is actually an asylum where the inmates have escaped. We see the inmates performing Hamlet holding a gore-covered skull in their hand as the police storm the building. To add insult to injury, the camera slowly pans over and reveals John Lovitz's face lying amongst the garbage. Number 7, Abrakadaver, Season 3, Episode 4. I remember one October, Sci-Fi Network was doing a Tales from the Crypt marathon and I tuned in. And even though I was in high school, something about this particular episode really unnerved me, and it remains one of the scariest episodes of the show in my mind. In the 70s, two brothers, Carl and Martin, are both in medical school and appear to have bright futures ahead of them. Unfortunately, when one of Carl's pranks on Martin goes wrong, it leads to Martin having a stroke and losing the ability to use his hands. Years later, Martin gets revenge on Carl by dosing him with an experimental drug that stops his heart while keeping his brain fully operational. We are then treated to roughly 15 minutes of hearing the inner monologue of Carl's corpse. He can't feel anything, and he's wildly aware of everything happening to him. This ends up being an elaborate prank for Martin, however, but it causes Carl to die of a heart attack. The end of the episode is Carl's real-life autopsy, and his internal monologue screams that now he can feel every single second of it.
Damn you, Marty. You are absolutely right. Except about one thing. The sense of touch. It isn't the first thing to go, it's the last.
Number 6, Split Personality, Season 4, Episode 11. Joe Pesci has never been as delightfully sleazy as he is in this memorable episode. He plays a con man who happens to end up at a mansion owned by wealthy but reclusive twin sisters. Eventually, they both fall for his charm and find themselves wishing that there was more than one of him so they could get married. Joe Pesci's character claims that he has a twin brother who's constantly traveling when he's not around and vice versa. And eventually, he marries both girls with the plan of collecting all of their money when they die. Eventually, the twins discover the ruse, tie him up, and explain how they murdered their father when they were children because they couldn't share him, and they plan to do the same to him. The episode concludes with each girl snuggling with one of the halves of Joe Pesci as his gore spills out across the bed. Number 5, What's Cooking? Season 4, Episode 6. The cast of What's Cooking really shows the level of popularity that the show had reached by Season 4. In the episode alone, we have Christopher Reeves, Bess Armstrong, Judd Nelson, and Meatloaf. It tells of a couple with a failing squid-only restaurant business whose luck changes when their janitor Gaston offers to add some steaks to the menu. They quickly become an overnight success. It's only later that they discover the meat that everyone loves so much is actually the human flesh of their landlord. While we're treated to some of the most disgusting close-up shots imaginable, the reason this episode is so beloved has got to be the ending. It is an all-timer twist, and the couple, along with all of the fans of the cooking, decide that they are content with being cannibals and kill and eat Gaston.
Nate, here are the killers. They killed Chumley, and who knows who else.
Yeah. What to do?
What do you mean? Arrest them?
Yeah, I could do that, but you see, I've developed this taste. And this would solve my early retirement problem. Something to do with myself.
Number 4, All Through the House, Season 1, Episode 2. When Tales from the Crypt debuted on June 10th, 1989, it was a 90-minute event featuring 3 episodes back-to-back. It started with The Man Who Is Death, which is a perfectly fine episode, and it ended with Dig That Cat, He's Real Gone, which is a very good episode. But it was the episode in the middle, called An All Through the House, that left the biggest long-time imprint on people. The evil serial killer Santa Claus as a concept is well tread at this point. Not only had Christmas Evil and Silent Night Deadly Night been controversial releases prior to 1989, but the story that it was being adapted from had already appeared in the 1972 anthology film Tales from the Crypt. However, few evil Santas have been as menacing and creepy as Larry Drake's performance. The episode has everything you could ask for. Robert Zemeckis' direction is top tier. Every actor is acting for the cheap seats with campy delight, and Fred Decker's script is tense as well as funny. 35 years since its release, this still remains one of the all-time scariest pieces of Christmas content ever filmed.
Thank goodness. See, Mommy? I told you Santa would come, and he didn't even have to come down the chimney. I let him in. No!
Number 3, Let the Punishment Fit the Crime, Season 6, Episode 1. The last 2 seasons of Tales from the Crypt were a bit of a mixed bag, but the Season 6 premiere had a massive high point. The episode follows Catherine O'Hare as Geraldine Ferret, who is a sleazy lawyer that gets pulled over in a small town and has to go through 3 different judges, all played by the same actor, who are dead set on sentencing people to torture or capital punishment for petty crimes. People's noses are cut off, there's public whippings that occur, but Geraldine gets the far worse punishment than any physical torture. She's sentenced to be the new public defender in the courthouse for an undetermined amount of time. While many Tales from the Crypt episodes are remembered for their graphic and gory endings, something about the simplicity of this karmic ending just makes it so much more memorable. Number 2, Television Terror, Season 2, Episode 16. Casting Morton Downey Jr. as a sleazy tabloid reporter Horton Rivers is an inspired choice. While there are plenty of reasons to dislike Morton Downey Jr., he is undeniably the tour de force of this episode. The episode is in many ways a one-man show. Horton is exploring the supposedly haunted hospital where many patients had been murdered. While inside the house, things intensify until Horton is killed by a ghost live on the air, and his body is thrown out a window and hung by a makeshift noose. This is much more of a paint-by-numbers ghost story than most Tales from the Crypt episodes, but that's also why it's so memorable. The episode has less humor, not much of a twist, but a lot of great style. For some reason, the closing shot just lingers in your brain forever. This one almost made it to number 1, but there is one story more iconic than even this. But before we get to number 1, here's a few quick honorable mentions that just missed the top 10.
Where'd she go?
I'm over here, Howard. I'm so glad you came.
The last thing I am is beautiful.
What is beauty anyway? But the Mona Lisa has nothing on you.
Hey, Monkey Dick! I killed my banker! Well, somebody prepare to get the cop! You hear that? Yeah, tell the cop I stuffed the bitch in Donny Osmond's glove case!
Oh, thank goodness at last. You're the chief, I would guess. Well, come on inside. Take a look at this mess. It must have been that bad old wolf. Oh, my lordy. Only he could be responsible for a scene that's this gory.
He's much happier.
And number 1, Ventriloquist Dummy, Season 2, Episode 10. There are a few episodes of television that feel more insane than this one. Don Rickles stars as the popular ventriloquist Mr. Engels, and in the 70s his career hit a sudden end when a nightclub caught on fire, burning his hand badly. 15 years later, an inspiring ventriloquist named Billy, who's played by Bobcat Goldthwait, visits the reclusive Mr. Engels to get help on his craft. While Billy is disappointed by his idol, he eventually learns the dark secret to his act. He wasn't a ventriloquist, but instead his right hand was the living tissue of his twin brother Morty. Morty set fire and had murderous intentions, which leads to Engels staying indoors all the time. He eventually cuts Morty off, hoping to free himself from his control, and Morty makes a deal with Billy to help him become the greatest ventriloquist of all time. The episode's horrific ending comes when Morty goes off script and suddenly Billy starts screaming in pain. When he removes the fake dummy from his hand, we see that Morty has now merged himself fully into Billy's wrist. And that's our list. So how did we do? Was your favorite episode represented? Let us know in the comments. Like the video and subscribe to get more videos like this one, and thank you for watching.